Welcome to Work This Way, a labor and employment podcast. I'm Tina Emerson, Chief Marketing Officer at Maynard Nexsen, and I'm here with Keely Fresh. She is a labor and employment attorney at Maynard Nexsen, Greenville. Good to see you.
Hi, Tina. Good to see you.
Well, we are coming to you from the Greenville SHRM Conference here, where HR and employment pros are gathered for networking and to hear engaging speakers, and we are lucky to have one of those with us today. Connor Shaw is with us. Good to see you.
Thank you so much for having me on. Great to see y'all too.
Great to see you. Well, we are thrilled to have you. You are a Wellbeing and Benefits Consultant for Gallagher, and very important to add, a former quarterback for the South Carolina Gamecocks. Go Gamecocks.
Go Cox.
Go Cox. So we're glad to have you. Thanks for taking the time to talk to us. And tell us a little bit about your talk here today.
Yeah, thank you. Excited about it. I think the Greenville SHRM Board and Committee have done a great job putting together all of this, so excited to talk about it. I come from a sports background, like you said, and there's so many parallels, I think, from locker room dynamic to culture to leadership and how that connects with every business and everything that we do. And I'm in well-being, like you mentioned, so it's how do I interact with employee benefits for two particular reasons, I think. One, help people get healthier. That's the root cause of everything that we do. And number two is to create that culture, recruitment, retention tool. So that's largely what I'm going to be talking about today.
It's really interesting. Obviously, with your background, you know team chemistry is incredibly important. What are some of the tips and tricks you have found to correlate that team chemistry from sports into the workplace?
That's a great question. You know, I've been a part of really good teams at South Carolina. We won 43 games in 4 years, I think, and I've been a part of really bad teams. I spent 4 years in the NFL where I think we won 18 games in 4 years. And keep in mind, that's 17 game schedules each year, so not great. And, you know, talent was never the issue. So to answer your question, I think it starts with values. If you have a leader of an organization or a head coach in football, you know, and everything that you do is values-based, and that's your guardrails of who you recruit and who you bring in your organization, it's no different than a business owner. Is can we use these values that are not just an employee handbook, that's not just on a wall? Do we live by it? Do we identify those people that have those shared values? And when you do have that, I really think that does foster the team chemistry and the camaraderie within a locker room or within a workplace. Not to say you can't have talented people, but I've heard it said, you hire the heart and not the talent alone, knowing the heart will impact an organization in the long term far more than talent alone does. And when you have just talented individuals, I think it becomes more of an obstacle than fruitful, where you can develop the skill. But if you have a bunch of guys who have belief in what they're doing and what belief the whole team is doing, then it becomes pretty special.
Definitely.
And that culture is kind of a top-down approach. Everybody has to really believe it. You're going to be talking about kind of the ripple effect of good culture. And what do you mean by that?
Yeah, gosh, there's so many layers to it. You said it's top down, but I also think it's bottom up. I really think it takes someone that just says, hey, this is what I want my organization to stand for. This is how I want my organization to reflect. And the more people I get that sort of reflect what we want to be about, I think that sort of permeates into the culture. And I think someone as a leader that can swallow some ego and come alongside someone. I'm going to reference Ted Lasso today. So if you've ever seen that show, I think he's like such a great leader, an example of coming alongside someone, not necessarily to teach them like a technical skill set, but to show them that, hey, what you do matters. And I believe in you, so much so that that person believes in themselves and believe in what they're doing as a collective unit through all the adversity, through all the crap, all the success, you know, like suffering and finding success together. And I think in the long term, that approach, especially from a leader, that sort of is contagious.
Definitely contagious. Talking about your ripple effect, you also have another key phrase that you use a lot, which is giving to get.
Yeah.
Can you explain this philosophy to us?
I sure can. And this is really the health side of things. So I work with employers to drive down healthcare costs, which obviously are rising. Chronic conditions are in a bad way right now. So how do we, if I'm an employer or a human resource professional, and the only way to manage healthcare costs is to change individual behavior, how do I do that if it's individual behavior? I can't tell them to go do something. So what I mean to give to get is, how do we incentivize it? If you go participate in your annual wellness or do preventative care, which is ground zero to our health, and participate in it and take responsibility, well, we're going to reduce your premiums because you did that. You know, so it's all these things. Maybe, you know, post-pandemic is I have a remote schedule that people are accommodating, which is a great thing. If I'm on the road for a week, I'll have a quiet Monday where I can fill my cup working from home, just be as productive. But I do think that can impact being around the people and the culture. So how do I reward people coming into the office? I really think it's how well do I know our population or our workforce, and how can we incentivize them for doing the right things?
And a lot of times when people are hired in an organization, they're looking at, you know, when are my vacation days and how much am I going to get paid? And they don't really think about their overall health, not just their financial health, but their personal health. Talk a little bit more about how Gallagher works with companies to maintain that level of health for employees in a company, and how it really benefits a company overall.
Yeah, I think two things come to mind is communication and transparency. And those are two things that I think are a burden and a challenge in healthcare, number one, and insurance, number two. It's a very overwhelming, complicated thing. But I think the more we can communicate, understand, plan designs. Here's the thing with health insurance, and I don't think that I'm a health insurance wizard by any means. Large part of it really frustrates me, but there's a lot of different ways that make up a health plan. You have your carrier, a Blue Cross, right? You have your network, you have your pharmacy benefit manager, you have a stop loss, you have plan design like copays. Honestly, all of it is noise compared to addressing how do we get people healthier. Can we get them to go see a doctor? Those with chronic illnesses, how can we help them hold the line clinically to at least not get worse? Can we help them get cheaper medication? Can we steer them to higher quality care so it's not repeat doctor visits? It's really putting together this plan of meeting people where they are and develop this crawl, walk, run methodology.
Yeah, and just the root cause of those high prices.
Yeah, absolutely. The only way to manage, spend less in healthcare is to get healthier. I mean, really, that is the whole thing. That's the only way. What drives renewal increases each year? Poor health, so how do we start there?
Right. So it sounds like a lot of your goals are communication based.
Yeah.
Do you have any tactics that you could share with us that you use in communicating with these employees that general health is the key here?
Yeah, I think there has to be some sort of communication strategy throughout the year. Oftentimes it's renewal time. We come together, open enrollment, and here's your benefit offerings, and here's what you need to take advantage of, and then you disappear until the next go around. So How do we use technology for that? There's many platforms where we can house everything, and then healthy champions. I give this example too, like from trying to communicate or get a point across to people. Oftentimes when it comes from a head coach in sports or a boss, it can fall on deaf ears sometimes because it's so repetitive. But if you hear it from a teammate or peers and they're holding that standard and expectation, I think that comes across in a different way. So you need some healthy champions, employees within your workforce to say, hey, this is what I did, this is how I drove it, this is how I'm getting better. And I think that also becomes contagious, but you really do need those champions in there.
And you really need people to be enthusiastic about just getting better and feeling better.
Yeah, and that's not the easiest thing to do, but once they do become healthier, I think it's like, wow, it's the greatest ripple effect in our life. It impacts everything that we love and everything that we love to do.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for taking the time with us today, but I have to end with one question. You talked about having champions of health, but how are we going to do this year?
Yeah, great question.
That's what I'd really like to know.
I went to spring practice a couple of times. I can't put too much stock in spring ball. What I can say is we have a quarterback. Lenore Sellers is a stud. He's like a freaking horse on a football field.
He is.
So
Yes.
as long as we got him, I think we'll be just fine.
Good. Well, I love that. Ending on a good note. Thanks for being with us, Connor. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks. We'll see you next time on Work This Way.